Alrighty, daily trading recap review for this Tuesday, the 4th of January, 2022, kicking off that new year again with a pretty nice green day. Great learning lessons all around, but some great takeaways from today as well. We'll get into it with the individual tickers. First, let's just go over some housekeeping for SPY. All-time highs slap again today, then a little rejection, fall down to 477 area, and then kind of reclaiming a little bit or dipping here in the afternoon and pushing into the close, but we'll see where this price action leads us within the next few days, still maintaining within that little same range area again of just about 475. So we'll see if it has another little dumpy pullback or starts to make another leg upwards. It'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. Market internals on the day, dollar volume, NASDAQ $284 billion volume on the day as of hour and 4 minutes after the close here. NYSE $351 billion volume, good to see. OTC's $2.1 billion volume in that market. A lot of first green day movers that we had today. I counted really 9 in total that fit my criteria of nice dollar volume, nice percentage move upwards. And it gets to that point where you can I've had that thought a while back of, man, I trade or I have a lot of patterns solely based on first green days. And I felt myself coming into more of the multi-day setups a little bit these past few weeks because mainly I think there just weren't a lot of first green day players to play. But coming into today, it was just a refresher to say, oh yeah, I could definitely see how you could just solely limit yourself to first green day plays if, like how I started in the hot 2020 market, that was really all you saw every single day. You're just like, why would I try to trade anything else? This is beautiful opportunity and volatility. Let's just learn to see if there's any patterns that we can recognize here. So interesting day to see from that. But gosh, yeah, getting into that battle again of just so many ice cream flavors to choose from when there's just so many things hitting the scanner that way. And it's really it's hard for me to do all the preparation that I want to do. And I thought I was doing so great beforehand when there was limited stuff movement. But then when you get actual just like bucket loads dumped on you at the same time on your scanner in the morning, you're just going, okay, do I need to do all that same type of preparation work that I was doing of every single facet of the dilution tracking, of the fundamentals, the technical analysis? And of course, it's not a waste of time, but now it becomes that lesson of, I wasn't so hard working on this in the 2020 market because I didn't really know what I was doing, just starting the career. But when there's just that much, it becomes the race against time of what do I really need to be focusing on and how can I fine tune this preparation process beforehand before even taking a trade. And sometimes, like what I did with HOTH here today, it just becomes the learning has to take place out of the market and becomes when the market is open, whether pre-market or after hours, it's trading time, it's go time. And that's exactly what I did with HOTH. I'll get into that one in a little bit. But yeah, just really still in this introduction phase that I am in here. I wrote in my journal, how do we best cut this market or even trading career down into manageable, chewable bites of when it does become so hot and it feels like there's just a fire hose of price action and volatility and opportunity being shoved down your throat, of how you're able to manage it and dodge and weave through all the necessary information and then some of the information that you can just definitely leave to the wayside. Or especially too, I think the better question on top of that is what best fits your personality versus just, kind of following along the crowd with, this looks like a great opportunity here today. And yeah, maybe there's a tradable opportunity, but maybe it doesn't fit you best. So how do you follow along that line of clicking into what works best with you personally versus just trying to find the best percentage profit opportunity on the day? That gives us the opportunity to do that in these specific days versus in the past when there's just not, you are kind of just stringing together a few C or B plays together. And yeah, you can kind of make do while it gets by, but different ways to tackle them with different environments of the market itself. So great market environment today that we had. And I wrote as well of, this gives me great incentive then to start getting back up earlier and then start trading short very, very early in pre-market, going off of that same type of morning dump thesis that I used to do last year, April, May, June-ish, that time frame. I was able to nail those pretty nicely. And we had, I could categorize of the 9 that I was counting, like 3, maybe 4, 3, but definitely like 2 that I could say within the time frame that I'd be looking for within the range of trading that I could call, and not just say like not just in hindsight look back and say, oh yeah, I definitely would have gotten short there. No, like in the perspective of, okay, if the stock was doing this, I was seeing these factors here. I could see myself getting short at the failure to maintain VWAP at this point, taking a little short off there. So yeah, on that scale, when you're saying, okay, it's less than a third percentage-wise of the movers today for the market sentiment on these first green day movers, that they're going to do this specific pattern in order to entice myself or push myself to do that. It's just like, yeah, that percentage move doesn't seem so enticing, but it's just we are pretty diluted today with the amount of movers that we had. So good to see that the opportunity that was there. I can say that, but yeah, just still not so extremely convicted that I'm going to ditch everything and just focus solely on these first green day movers after this one day of, we also had a nice set of first green day movers yesterday as well. But we're just going to continue to watch and see if this pattern is something that is playable, like we did on HOTH and ISPC today. But then, yeah, I certainly feel like that fits my personality and trading style best, and I love to follow those types of movers. So that was it. We got dollar volume. Let's get into the charts. Hopping in on HTOH. Morning dumper play. Fundamentals for this ticker: American Biopharma, 20 million float. News catalyst today was positive results for their Alzheimer therapeutic. Love the downtrending daily that it has. The absolute boner and ranger as a short on these little morning spikes, morning news spikers for this strategy. They have some pipe warrants out still, a little shelf back from 2020, but nothing absolutely crazy. And again, I don't really base any of these shorts off of that dilution. If it's absolutely crazy, that would sometimes entice me to stay out, leading me to believe that there's more involvement for manipulation in order to get those shares out into the market. And they can kind of, it just because that my short strategy is not based on that dilution, really. It's just, I keep it in the back of my mind and understand that it's there, but I do not base those trades on it. It was a $9 borrow fee for the 1,000 shares that it was taken just as reference through trade zero. And in the individual trade itself, tongue-tied Lucy there did have a little bit of a fake out for that breakdown of VWAP after the initial spike from that news catalyst, but was still within. And I'm still maintaining the idea and watching other scanners, watching other tickers pop up on the scanner as this is kind of just topping here. And I'm thinking, okay, this could be a very nice one. I think I have to definitely step in here. Didn't come into today expecting to do so or just like ready to, I am going to absolutely nail and put decent size at anything that does this type of pattern, but this was too good of a situation and really hitting a lot of key marks that I want to see for this specific playbook trade for me to not get short. So taking in 1,000 shares, I'm having nice price action. It held a little bit too well for my comfort of what I would like to see. I would just want to see this thing immediately dump from VWAP to 10%, have this thing pull down to $1 immediately after that break, and that's pretty much the end of the trade. Yeah, that is a trade for what price that would have been at least 10% from that point. It was 15% opportunity from where my entry was on the day. A grade for the idea on the trade itself, but yeah, I would love to see it pull back a little bit more from there, but does hold to VWAP, cling there a little bit longer, still doesn't break to the upside of VWAP. I was through my mentality the whole time was, if this thing does break to the upside of VWAP, I think I'm liable to cut it and just let it do what it wants to do. And even if it's such a small, minuscule paper cut, even if normally I would be risking that 1.3 level, this high of day area, I could have seen myself in this mindset or this kind of newer me as a trader. Maybe, okay, let's risk maybe just 120 area or 123ish, 122ish here. This little toppy that it had. Let's risk there to see, I'll just give you a little bit of room to not give it all the way to what would be an obvious risk level of that high of day. But of just continuing, I just wanted to continue the mindset that I came from with the paper trading and the very small cash account size trading with my longs of, if I was in a trade and I had an idea for what I thought this chart should do, and if it really didn't follow along with what I thought it was going to do and became a different trade and chart after I was in it, cut it and move on to the next one. What's the harm? And I have to continually, I did with this one, definitely, of I want to say revolutionize, but change the paradigm in my head of what a day trade is and quit putting such a value on these day trades that, I don't want to cut this trade because then it'd be wasting a day trade. And I go look at I do have 2 PDT accounts, so I only have 5 trades left for the week. And I could get back in on it, but then I'd be wasting another day trade of totally eliminating that noise and BS from my mindset and just continuing to trade on what the chart is saying. And I've proven it with the data in these past, even through the paper trades. And even doing that strategy of cutting very soon and just limiting myself, not limiting myself, but limiting the trade, limiting the charts to either do what I think you're going to do or just cut it, move on to the next one, because then you're something else. That was doubling my win rate. I mean, the data has proven that. So I'm going to continue to follow along with that thesis for a great while. Covering, I was getting faked out pretty consistently by a cent for the covers. So looking for, okay, we had this little pull here on just this quick price action breakdown. We get this pull here to 106-ish area initially after this, like 3-4 minutes after that break of VWAP after my entry. Then I'm thinking, okay, that's a little bottom there. I was thinking maybe I should cover there, but no, that's way too soon to be cutting anything. Still holding. I'm eventually putting in a price limit order around that 1.6 point, thinking we could get a secondary bottom there and just be covering in shares if we do get some kind of reversal for how well it has been holding and not just dying off immediately. So putting in 1.6 again, price action starts to fall. It's just hovering at 107, and trying to be as patient as I possibly can, but I'm just not seeing the intent for this thing to break down. So I'm just saying, God, screw it. And I'm getting everything ready and end up taking off that first half of shares. That might have been the first. Yeah, I believe that was the first half of my shares at that 107 point. I took off there because I didn't believe it was going to break 106. And sure enough, a few seconds later, it breaks to the downside there, starts to make new lows and still hovering lower. And then we get another little bottom ditch little valley here again of the same thing of, okay, I'm looking for that $1 price point now. Now I've got half of the position off. If it goes against me, sure enough, whatever. It's just a little cut, small trade, no biggie. But my next exit is definitely going to be at that $1 mark. So setting it at $1. Normally I could set it at 101 or anywhere around there, but hey, screw it. Let's set it for $1. Price action starts to fall again. We hover at 101. Okay, whatever, stupid. I still think there's death upon you. Still starts to ride there again. 101, 102 bid starts to stack a little bit and starts to play around. And I'm like, are you serious? Are you screwing me right now? I'm gonna have to get faked out again. Well, I'm not gonna get faked out. I'm gonna have to upbid myself again. So take off what would have been 400 shares. So having 100 shares remaining, taking 400 shares off at 102 then. And sure enough, a few seconds later, same thing. It dumps below 101, dumps below $1. I'm like, what the? Okay, whatever. Let it do what it do. Just keeping that 100 shares on as that little lottery ticket. I like that strategy as well, because knowing that this pattern definitely, when it was working in its heyday for what I was finding it for, even into market hours, leaving a set on of shares could have significant more price action downwards. That could, like, from some of these trades, if we were taking away what this chart actually did today, but putting on some of those charts in the past, we could have seen this chart, down below that previous trading day close of 70 cents. So leaving that little lottery ticket on to say, hey, I think there's still potential for the death upon this thing of bleeding even into market hours. I'm going to leave that out as a little feeler to still involve myself in the trade, but also respect the fact that, hey, I was here for this trade. I took my money, and I'm not going to try and force anything there that isn't there, and just play with fire that way. So then covering, as it's reclaiming here. Had a little test to VWAP, but then peeling off, dumping again, but finding a base, and then reclaiming to VWAP before market open. And sure enough, market hours craziness, having halts and spikes here right away in that morning volatility, but then just sideways action here the whole rest of the day. Interesting little chart market hours wise, but that was the trade in pre-market, and a good little takeaway even for what looks like, had I been looking at this one at the end of the day, if I didn't see it pre-market and I just pulled it up at the end of the day, I would have said, yeah, there's a little bit of sell-off after that initial crack of VWAP, but it wouldn't have been a beautiful candidate for me to say, okay, yes, the full sentiment of this chart is downward death because of the craziness they had during market hours. But even again at that, that's like a 15% profit opportunity from taking where I took it at 114. Of course, can't be perfect, but the opportunity there of taking this thing all the way to 97, 15%, man, I can't ask for more, especially within pre-market, getting out like a predictable, easy trade and what I was holding the risk for of just kind of break even. If it was testing VWAP here again, I was just going to be out and moving on to the next one. Nice little risk reward, nice opportunity there on HAOTH. Great for the idea. Got to give it an A on those factors that I just mentioned. And execution-wise, I can give myself a B for, of course, because of the little fake outs that I was getting on by a cent on those areas. And yeah, I can't give myself an A for there, but yeah, for how it wasn't terrible for how I was handling this, of just the areas of the price levels, regions that I was looking to take off. Yeah, I can't knock myself for the targets I was picking and then leaving that little lottery share on if and when or could it happen to dump even more. Good little trade. That was HOTH. Talking about ISPC now. This was four mover, same thing. First screen day we had today. The daily shows this one is still in that little downtrend that I had from the end of November range here from that craziness. Fundamentals on this one for reference for me, American healthcare tech company, 4 million float. The news catalyst it's showing here is they're going to be in the H.C. Wainwright bio conference. But, just like, would that pump this stock this much? Is that newsworthy or pumpiness worthy of anything today? But regardless, we got the price movement that's there. I do not really care about the rest. They also do have some pipe warrants still. That's really only pending dilution. And then just the borrow fee for me through TradeZero was $18 for these 200 shares on this trade. And then coming off of HOTH, this was right around that same time. I could definitely feel the edginess or just kind of cloud nininess that I was on of, man, trading is easy. Just coming right off the bat with a nice little profit. And just like, and I think it was more of that. I knew it wasn't going to be an A+, or I didn't have it envisioned as an A+, because I haven't been in that little rhythm for a while. So just like kind of like, oh yeah, I think it could go. I'm going to take a size here. Okay, it's working a little bit, take a nice profit. And it just kind of working, even though I didn't really have high conviction of it, that kind of engaged me a little bit more, kind of beefed up the balls that of like, oh, trading is easy, right? You just got to click buttons and you make money. There is no losing. Why would I ever take smaller size when all I do is make money, right? So I could feel myself falling into that paradigm a little bit. So I was checking myself with each chart I was pulling up, but ISPC again was hitting a lot of those similar marks. It was very, very low floater and kind of sketchy news. And I really didn't have huge conviction in this crack of VWAP for how many times it was just peeking off here on these little red candles initially off of there. And gosh, yeah, did I expect this thing truly to end up after it would fail VWAP, after price action would fail VWAP there, would it eventually start to be fading more into market open? Gosh, the conviction, again, kind of a similar thing of HOTH. I've been out of this little rhythm for a while, or just the feel, maybe more that intuition of what these things could or should do. But looking back at the chart today in hindsight, the sentiment was there of, there's death, there's overhead, there's bleeding. There's just not really a huge push from the buy side to generate any crazy market hours compared to HOTH today, which is funny of, I could say I had a little bit more conviction in HOTH, and that was the one that went crazy spiky against me, and ISPC that I had a little bit less of conviction against, and it ended up working out pretty perfectly there for price action. And of course, it did have this little perk here with huge volume that would spike against that previous high of day in pre-market of 1019, 1020 area. That again that's what these stocks do. They're meant to just squeeze you out, and of course, that would have been the perfect high of day to get another short position on and trade that the same way. But how I would have handled that as a risk management thesis, had I still been in a trade, risking a high of day point there, it's just a continual evolving process of how to manage trades like this and understand when those moves are little fake outs, when they are real threats, and just all of the in between there. So for this individual trade, again, coming off of that HOTH trade of, gosh, do I really want to be pushing that button again? Am I just like playing that hot hand syndrome of can't lose anything? But I think the trade is there. Let's play it. So getting short 9, 6, 8, I was getting in there. Pretty nice fill just as it was barely testing those bid levels. Sure enough, had a nice little fall off immediately from there, covering a few shares, covering like 50 shares into 950, another 50 into 940, just to start taking off some, because again, the huge conviction wasn't there. So, hey, if there's profit opportunity, if it's showing the signs of death, I'm going to be looking to take money wherever I can, but leaving a bulk of the position on still 150 shares of that position, I believe. No, and then I think I did cover a third time right around 940 again, as it was bottoming there. So I had 100 shares left into this final close position as it did reclaim to VWAP. And that ended up being kind of the perfect little trade for what my entry point and what the thesis idea for the trade was. For that idea, I can give myself a grade of like a C. It wasn't huge opportunity. If you nail it 9.6, 9.70 to 9.4, not a huge percentage move by any means, or anything to write home about, but gosh, yeah, that's okay, decent. It's kind of average of just covering easy within 1 to 2 minute trade there. And then for how I traded it, give myself an A grade for execution for the chart that was there. Can't really pin myself anymore other than just covering everything at 9.4, which would have been, I think, stupid, and having to at least leave some on for any potential further drop into the close there would have been the smarter play on that one, which is what I did, leaving those 100 shares on, leaving half the share position until it tested VWAP. That is all I want to mention on ISPC. So adding, it was $18 borrow fee, so I ended up pulling $5 out of it in total with the profits taken out of those borrow fees that way. So better than a loss, that's for sure. NTRB, next one now. Gosh, this third day mover on that after the crazy first day move. American Biotech 5 million floater. Gosh, we've just been waiting for this one. Thought it was going to happen that second day, but just did not happen. I think I traded it long that second day as well, looking on this little Perkin. Did it again today of just teasing myself a little bit. The first move here in the morning session, I took a decent size, maybe half, maybe a quarter of the size I would like to start taking on my more convicted trades. But still weary of what this one is and the potential overhead there, but able to get in on a nice move there on, call it the red to green, call it the dip and rab, call it the third day surge of able to get in at 941 there as it's building with volume, building on the bids, smacking this little market open high a day here at 9.3 area. We get a very nice move immediately out of gate from there, but it's just kind of lingering. I mean, I was wanting and ready to see this thing at $15 within 5 minutes, right? I wanted to see this thing just halting immediately for how the percentage move it put in that first day for the volume it was bringing in. But looking on the daily here as well, you can just see on this chart, just really not a lot of volume there to push anything, and just some amount of overhead from somewhere. Almost two biggest volume candle days are these high of day rejection candles. This candle here in the morning, 937, and then this candle here, 14, that'd be 235. Huge volume, smacking down these new high of day attempts right around that same area, just under 10.5 here, 10 to 10.5 area. Interesting little funny chart to learn from, and I wish I was taking the level 2 time and sales tape recording this afternoon session as well, that I tried to fingle around with. It was 10 shares both ways for these two little in and outs. I think ended up losing like $2. This one was a pure loser as it was reclaiming or re-pushing above $10 for the first time, rejected there. Tried again as it pushed above. The bid pushed above $10 again here. Had a little bit more room coming up to 10.4, but then that huge rejection. So it took off just for a little break-even trade on that one. So really minuscule on that second afternoon trade, but that morning trade, that first morning volatility trade, gosh, just the idea for the trade, I can give myself a grade of the chart that showed today, comparing that to what I was anticipating for this trade. I have to give myself a D because it just did not resemble anything of what I wanted to see. I took off 10 shares, a 20% of the position into this $10 mark because I just felt so freaking convicted that this thing easily is going to be at $12. Like it's not even a question. It's just going to be there. Like it wasn't even kind of rationalizing any other way. Of course, keeping risk. Obviously, I'm over exaggerating that. You have to keep risk in mind, but that was the trade thesis going in beforehand, that this thing needed to be at 12 for me to start taking real profits. And that's why I really didn't even go hard in taking steps in preparation for the trade of defining the parameters, because I knew once we get to that $12 mark, once we get to that $11 mark, then we can start to cross that bridge of, okay, I feel like potentially taking off some money here. Like that's kind of the leeway I was giving myself with this trade. But it's where this little tendency, I don't want to say hindrance, that it was having with these 2 minutes after that initial spike. I did have a bigger move here with big volume, but then it's like, okay, then why aren't you just going crazy into a halt here? What's kind of the dealio? And just, that was the rejection point. So And I could kick myself. I wrote in my journal here of not taking more off into that $10 push. But yeah, like I was just mentioning, that would have gone against the trade plan for what I was doing. So execution wise, I can give myself a grade of all around on all these as C. I was following along with what the trade plan was of what I thought was going to happen and cutting responsibly, getting some great fills too here just above, exiting. I think I got 952 something on this exit just before that huge sell-off panic, and then getting some in that $10 move as well. Yeah, I can't knock myself for that. Some great fills there. I know that Jack number 2 got for whatever he was risking, got some pretty terrible fills. I think closer to like under 920 there, but I think maybe he had a different risk profile looking at that point. But yeah, interesting chart to learn from, and just a weird kind of mover. Nothing's ever really weird. Nothing's ever illogical with the market, but an interesting one to learn from of how these things like to move and how to play them going forward in the future, if there is any way to do so. Last one, I was in IMMX long as well. Very, very small size on this one, this second day play. American Biopharma, very, very low float. I see a 1 to 4 million float range from different sources. They're coming off of that news catalyst on the first day yesterday from FDA authorization for the pediatric cancer thingy. Very speculative trade and kind of almost a sympathy to NTRB if it was going to start spiking, if NTRB was going to start spiking and this one was going to start testing highs again. Reclaimed very well all the selling and bleeding that it had before the close on that first screen day. Reclaimed all that very nicely in the pre-market here. So saying, okay, are you going to put in some fireworks today? You kind of got some very nice volume coming into market open. At the close here, we're showing $435 million volume that we traded, over 380,000 trades on the day. Hey, could something happen? Let's take a little peeksy here. But again, not very convicted in it or so hard focused on it as a playbook trade that would force me to take a bigger position size on this type of trade. So just throwing in there for the educational, experimental learning opportunity of 10 shares. Buying this little perk above 760 here again as it kind of breaks this little double toppy, kind of call it a double toppy of market hours as it comes into market open. Looking for the break of 7.8, looking for that break of $8 level, looking to start selling into potentially that $8 level as that first point of profit taking there, but just did not happen. So grade for this idea. Give it a D. You know, I get a few. I can't give it an F because I did get a few cents. It comes above 770 here, but then rejects after that, and did have the volume in that candle that I was looking for that breakout. But still a D grade for idea. Was not great at all. And execution wise, a C. I took a bit of a slippage there for my order, and it was a smaller size order. I can't knock myself for how I was actually getting filled. If I would have gotten filled a little bit quicker, because I know my risk level was going to be right around. If it was failing here at this point, I knew it was not going to be a good sentiment for that actual breakout trade itself. So to get a little bit of slippage as it was falling under VWAP there at 736, I was getting filled. It's a little bit of room for improvement there on that point, but I can't knock myself so hard for that. Did a great. I think the bigger lesson for that one is I can save myself so much of that worry on the slippage size by the position size itself. And I saved a lot. I really saved everything by just keeping it to a size of 10 shares. And that is the risk management in itself, and not getting so caught up and worried about, okay, well, I can't, I want to risk like 750, but if I go any further than that, that's going to be more risk than I want to put on, and having to put stops at like weird levels. So knowing to make sure that I get filled if it does start to break off harder and get so fast that I can't get filled at the price of dealing with all these different factors, just adjust your position size. If it's more risk, because the characteristic of the stock itself has to factor into the position size, and that position size bleeds into the risk profile. It's understanding the speed of how the stocks and the trades like to move, of what potential opportunity is there, and that's the ever-evolving adaptation that's necessary with the market itself of, okay, well, you do have to allow yourself to give it a little bit bigger of a risk profile if it's going to be a quick mover that way, because they can still drop against you and sometimes still find a base here off of that low a day and then reclaim the VWAP and then actually have the nice little breakout. That's just what the markets are meant to do, is get you emotional and get you faked out time and time again to collect not only your shares back from you, but also your money in the same light, to shake you down for everything. Great learning lesson on IMMX today. that was really it. Nothing hard on my watch list for right now. I can say I'm watching ENZC, this OTC ticker, with a nice little second day play here, moving pretty nicely into close. I'm not pressed hard as of right now to trade anything off of it. Just putting in some decent little volume, nice little 2-day action there. See if it has any continuation from the market open morning bell tomorrow. But yeah, I'd be hard pressed to trade it if there wasn't anything moving tomorrow. Like if the entire NASDAQ and NYSE closed tomorrow, then maybe I'd be considered looking to size into this type of trade if it does have a continuation play tomorrow. But yeah, certainly going to watch it and continue to learn from these OTC movers to see if they have any opportunity there whenever the market says that they are going to. But that is it. I sincerely thank you guys for watching. We will catch you guys on the next one.